This is the question asked in today's skillrack daily challenge. So in the first line of our input, we are given the values of R and C. And after that, we are given a R cross C integer matrix as input. And after the matrix, we are given two integers. So the first integer is K and the second integer is D. So here the value of K is equal to 2. So now our task is to find a 2 cross 2 submatrix such a way that the first digit of all the integers in that submatrix is equal to D. Suppose if we are able to find a submatrix such that, then we have to print the sum of that submatrix in our output. Else we have to print minus 1 in our output. So here K is equal to 2 and D is equal to 5. So we have to find a 2 cross 2 submatrix such a way that the first digit of all the integers must be equal to 5. So let us iterate through all possible 2 cross 2 submatrices. So this is the first 2 cross 2 submatrix, 12, 57, 64 and 45. But this submatrix is not a valid submatrix because here we can see that the first digit of the integer 12 is 1. So it is not valid. We have to have the first digit as 5 because that is the value of D. So this is not a valid submatrix. So we are going to find the next submatrix. So the next 2 cross 2 submatrix is 57, 23, 45 and 52. So again this is also not a valid submatrix because the first digit of 57 is equal to 5, but 23 has the first digit as 2, which is not equal to D. So this is not valid. All the integers must be having the first digit as 5. Only then we can consider it as a valid submatrix. So the next 2 cross 2 submatrix is 23, 22, 52 and 51. And again here we have 2 as first digit. So this is not valid. So we can move to the next 2 cross 2 submatrix. So the next 2 cross 2 submatrix will be 22, 61 and 51, 19. So here we have the first digits as 6 and 1, 2. So again these are also not valid. So we are going to move to the next 2 cross 2 submatrix. The next 2 cross 2 submatrix is 64, 45 and 25 and 55. And again this is also not valid because the first digit is 6, 4, so like that. So again this is also not a valid submatrix. So the next 2 cross 2 submatrix is 45, 52, 55 and 55. So here except the integer 45, all the digits has the first digit as D. But since this first digit is around 4, it is not a valid submatrix. So we move to the next submatrix. So here the submatrix is 52, 51, 55 and 53. And this is a valid submatrix because we can see that totally there are 4 integers in this submatrix. And all the 4 integers first digit is equal to D. So the value of D is equal to 5. So the first digit of all the integers is 5. So this is our task. We have to find a submatrix like this. If we are able to find a submatrix like this, then we have to print the sum of the integers in this submatrix. Else we have to print minus 1. So now we have found our submatrix, and in our output we need not print this submatrix. We have to print the sum of this submatrix. So the sum will be 52 plus 51 plus 55 plus 53, which is nothing but all the integers in this matrix. So when we add all these, we get the value 211, which is nothing but the sum of this submatrix. So in our expected output also we can see that we are printing 211. So this is how we get our output. So in this case we are able to find a k cross k submatrix with the first digit of all the integers in the submatrix equal to D. So we are printing the sum of that submatrix. Suppose if we are not able to find a k cross k submatrix as per the given conditions, then we have to print minus 1 in our output. So this is how we should be printing the output for today's daily challenge. Now let us see how to write a C program for this. So first I am creating a function named first digit, and this function is expected to return the first digit of an integer. So it accepts an integer n in its arguments, and this function should return the first digit of that integer n as the output. Suppose let us assume an example that the value of n is equal to 550. So this function should return the first digit. So the first digit is nothing but 5. So this should be the value returned by this function. So to implement a logic for this, there are two possible ways. One, we can create a while loop, and the while loop should be iterating until the value of n becomes less than or equal to 9. So the condition that we should be giving in the while loop is n greater than 9. So in every iteration of this loop, we have to divide the value of n by 10. And finally, after the execution of the loop, the value of n will become less than or equal to 9. So after the execution of the loop, the value of n will be nothing but the first digit of the integer n. So we have to return that. So this is one possible way of finding the first digit. And the another possible way is we can convert this integer n into a character array using the sprintf statement. So after converting it into a character array, we can easily take the first digit. So the character present at the index 0 is nothing but the first digit. So we have to convert that ASCII value into decimal and we have to return it. So this is another possible way. So these are the two possible ways of finding the first digit of the integer n. So now let us start with our main function. So first I am creating some integer variables, and in the next line I am accepting the values of r and c, and then I am creating a two-dimensional array named mat of size r cross c. So now we have to accept r cross c integers of the integer matrix. So we have to create a nested loop, and in every iteration we have to accept the integer and store it into the two-dimensional array named mat. And after the integer matrix, we are given the values of k and d. So again, using a scanf statement, we have to accept the values of k and d. So now we have accepted all of our input. Now our task is to iterate through all possible k cross k submatrices in the given input matrix. So to do that, we have to create a nested loop. And here is the logic for iterating through all possible k cross k submatrices in the given input matrix. So this nested loop, so this ij loop iterates through all possible k cross k submatrices. So the last possible index from which we will be able to form a k cross k submatrix will be r minus k and c minus k. So this loop starts from 0 and iterates to r minus k, and the j loop starts from 0 and iterates till c minus k. So this ij loop actually iterates through the starting index of every k cross k submatrix. So this ij loop doesn't iterate through the complete k cross k submatrix. So in every iteration, the value of ij is nothing but the starting index of the k cross k submatrix. So within this, again we have to create a nested loop to iterate through the k cross k submatrix. Before that, we are creating a flag variable and sum, and we are setting both of them to 0 because we have to check whether the submatrix is valid or not. So now we are actually going to iterate through our k cross k submatrix. So this I1 J1 loop iterates through the elements of the submatrix. So we know the starting index and we know the size of the submatrix. So we can easily determine the ending index of the submatrix. So the starting index is nothing but ij and the size of submatrix is k. So we can easily determine the ending index. So in this I1 J1 loop, we can see that the I1 loop iterates from I till I1 less than I plus k. So actually it will be iterating till I plus k minus 1. Similarly, the j loop also starts from j and iterates till j1 less than j plus k. So the last index will be j plus k minus 1. So this I plus k minus 1 and j plus k minus 1 will be nothing but the ending index of that particular submatrix. So this I1 J1 loop will be actually iterating through the k cross k submatrix. So now our task is to check whether the first digit of all the integer in the k cross k submatrix is equal to d or not. So in every iteration of this nested I1 J1 loop, we are checking the first digit of the integer present at the index I1 J1. So to calculate the first digit, we are making use of the function first digit, which we have already defined. So if the first digit of matrix I1 J1 is not equal to d, then we are going to set flag is equal to 1. So if the first digit is not equal to d, we are going to set flag is equal to 1. And also we should calculate the sum. So in every iteration, I am adding the value of matrix I1 J1 with the variable sum. So finally, after the execution of this I1 J1 loop, we would have calculated the sum of the submatrix. And finally, after the execution of this I1 J1 loop, now we have to check the value of flag. If the value of flag is still equal to 0, then it means that it is a valid submatrix, because If the first digit of any of the integer in the k cross k submatrix is not equal to d, then we would have updated the value of flag to 1. So even after the execution of the I1 J1 loop, if the flag value is still equal to 0, then it means that it is a valid submatrix. So if it is a valid submatrix, we have to print the sum of that submatrix. So we have already calculated the sum. So if flag is equal to 0, then we have to print the sum and we can terminate the whole program using exit 0. So we can execute the condition exit 0 so that our program will be stopped. But if we are not able to find even a single k cross k submatrix as per the conditions given in the question, even after the execution of the loop, we would have printed nothing. So in those cases, we have to print -1 as our output. So finally, we are including a printf statement which prints -1. So that printf statement will be printing -1 only when nothing is printed in our output. Else, if we have found a valid submatrix, then we would have already printed the sum. So this is the logic. Thank you for watching.